JonBenét Ramsey's death as a 6-year-old beauty queen shocked the world and has been a mystery to detectives for decades. However, cutting-edge DNA technology may now help solve the puzzle once and for all. No one wanted to hear the truth. There is new proof that could change everything, and people who know about the case say the cops are almost done with it for good. But will justice be done in the end? The JonBenét Ramsey puzzle has been solved after all these years. What really happened that night and why is now clear. It's not good, just so you know. After more than 28 years, new DNA technology has given people new hope that the murder of 6-year-old JonBenét Ramsey can be solved. Before we get into that though, let's go back 28 years to the shocking case that caused the government and media to react. It all began in December 1996 when the Ramsey family's Christmas plans went horribly wrong. JonBenét Ramsey, 6, was found dead in the basement of her family's Colorado home on December 26. She was discovered with a garrote, a device used for strangulation, around her neck. An exam showed that her brain had been fractured. A note demanding $118,000 cents to get her back said she had been taken hostage. Her body was in the basement the whole time though. When her dad noticed she wasn't there, he called the police. They looked for her for several hours until he found her body in the basement. Surprisingly, he picked her up while she was crying, which made the family look suspicious. The strange ransom note and the lack of signs of breaking in made people think a lot of different things. Also, the crime scene wasn't properly locked up and the media was very interested in the case. Most people thought the Ramsey family was guilty for a long time. In 2003, DNA from JonBenét's clothing was used by detectives to find mixed email. This DNA did not match any Ramsey family member and was sent to the FBI's CODIS database. Following this, the family was found not guilty in 2008, which was backed up by Boulder's district attorney and these DNA results. Also, a known male DNA was found on several things, such as the garrote and a blanket, which suggests that the killer had physical touch with the crime scene, even though there were some early mistakes at the scene. Tools. With today's tools, labs can now get useful profiles from samples that have already been examined. Forensic genetic genealogy, a method that mixes DNA profiling with public genealogy records, is what has made the biggest progress. This method helped the police identify the Golden State Killer in 2018, which made a lot of people hopeful that it could also be used in the Ramsey case. John Ramsey, JonBenét's father, has told the police more than once that they should test key pieces of evidence like the ransom note, the garrote, the flashlight, and the underwear again, this time using the newest labs that can make profiles that are ready for genealogy. After all these years, JonBenét's family says the cops have everything they need to finally close the case. The Ramsey family has believed for almost 30 years that the cops already have the most important proof they need to solve the JonBenét Ramsey case. The girl's father, John Ramsey, has said many times that the police have all the proof they need to find the killer and has pushed them to use modern DNA testing methods. John Ramsey met with Boulder Police Chief Stephen Redfern and a genetic family expert for about 90 minutes in January 2025. During that time, they talked about how to use these technologies to test the crime scene items again. Since then, Chief Redfern and other officials have said they are willing to work with the FBI and private labs. This shows that they are still committed to solving the case after all these years. John added that they should use family DNA, which can help them find the criminal with a 60% to 70% chance of success. Some institutions in charge of the investigation have been hesitant, especially because of the problem of tainted evidence, which has slowed down the investigation over the years. But the government is still putting in place new testing rules with help from new leadership and public pressure from recent films. Also, JonBenét Ramsey, who is JonBenét's older half-brother, has come forward and said with confidence that this case can be solved. He said that people are still working on the case every day because they believe it will be solved in the end. The other day, John Andrew was interviewed and was honest about his family's personal history. They had to deal with the fact that their mother, Patty, had stage 4 cancer and that their sister, Beth, had died in a car crash earlier. They had no idea that their family would be hit by another terrible tragedy. They were still dealing with the death of their sister when things got worse. Everyone thought they were involved in the MA. He said, our sister and daughter died. The people we thought would guard and help us were the ones who blamed us. We were just normal people until something happened that changed our whole world upside down. John Andrew also said that the family was finally freed after 10 years of defending themselves. The DNA test in 2008 proved they were not guilty, so according to him, the only thing left is for police to quickly find the right person and begin charging them using modern investigative techniques. Both Ramseys agree that the cops already have the important DNA that hasn't been tested and other proof they need to solve the case, but they need to act quickly. But how did JonBenét's other brother, who was a major suspect, see things? Burke Ramsey, JonBenét Ramsey's brother, made news when he did a 3-part interview on Dr. Phil after being quiet for almost 30 years. This was the first thing he said in public since the tragedy in 1996. He turned down every interview request, even ones from Netflix and other films. Burke finally spoke up when he was asked why. He said, if the story is going to be told, I want to tell it. I do not want people to talk about me. I'd rather tell my own story. His words show that he wants to take back control of the story after years of media attention. In the conversation, Burke strongly denied using any item to hurt his sister, which was different from what the news had said when the case first came to light. It was clear what he meant, without a doubt not. He said that he stayed in bed the morning of the tragedy because he thought his sister was hiding. In the interview, they also talked about how the cops questioned him. Burke was scared and lost when he was 9 years old. It was because he was nervous that he smiled when the police were questioning him, which they took as an indication of guilt. He did say, though, that it was just a feeling of pain and nerves. In the interview, Dr. Field talked to Burke about the 911 call and played tapes that had never been shown before. He also asked him why he stayed in bed while the cops and his family were downstairs. And he talked about how shocked he was when he learned his sister was dead. But Burke has come up with his own idea about the case, and he too hopes that it will be answered soon. He thought that his sister's death was caused by an attacker or pedophile who was obsessed with beauty pageants, not his family. He said that he was hopeful that the case would be solved in the end, especially with the new DNA proof. Yeah, it looks like he was right. The Ramsey family is no longer being looked at as a possible suspect in this 30-year case. One of the weirdest things about the JonBenét Ramsey case was that the police first thought that John and Patsy Ramsey, the parents, were the main suspects. Investigators paid a lot of attention to the family, in part because there were no signs of breaking in. The kidnap note was written on home stationery and by chance talked about John's recent bonus. The police investigation was so focused on one thing that they missed all the other good leads, even ones that pointed to possible invaders. They might have had more likely suspects if they had looked at more possibilities. They could have been in the way of a crazy fan or attacker, but they weren't. The case went on for 28 years. With the most up-to-date DNA technology, the puzzle is almost solved. It wasn't as clear-cut that the parents were the killers as it first seemed, since JonBenét was hit in the head with something heavy and then choked with a garrote. Most likely, her folks would not kill her in such a horrible way. Joe Bellinger, the documentary filmmaker who made Cold Case, talked to JonBenét Ramsey about the case. He said, in fact, the parents were almost sent to jail for child endangerment and accessory charges, but DA Alex Hunter declined to file charges citing insufficient evidence. After 2008, when DNA testing showed male DNA from an unknown person, criticism got even worse. This proved that the Ramseys were not responsible at all. Later, former DA Mary Lacey officially cleared the family, saying that they were the ones who were hurt by the crime. She also said that the cops had missed important proof that didn't point to the Ramseys because they were too busy trying to prove that the family was guilty. In 2013, detectives said that their main line of inquiry was an intruder idea because they saw clear signs of a male presence in the house that they couldn't identify. Over 1,600 people, like local thieves, registered offenders, and people with patent ties, were possible persons of interest, but they couldn't look into this at that time because they were mostly focused on the family. The police were very interested in the parents, but they also thought that Burke Ramsey, JonBenét's 9-year-old brother, was involved. Officially, Burke Ramsey was not a suspect. However, DA Alex Hunter later said that Burke was not and never had been a suspect. Many people still thought he was guilty, even the news. The case of JonBenét Ramsey is a docuseries that came out on CBS in 2016. CBS experts came to the conclusion that Burke, who was 9 years old, may have killed his sister by hitting her with a lamp after a fight over a pineapple. They used the fact that Burke hit her with a golf club in the past and the way he behaved in interviews as proof. Burke's fingerprints were found on a bowl and a mug, which was the main piece of evidence. JonBenét's gut had a pineapple that hadn't been broken down yet. Experts at CBS say that this could have been her last moment. Some of them also said that he was smiling and cool while being questioned by the cops. There is strong evidence that Burke and his family are not guilty of these claims. Because of this, he sued CBS and Dr. Werner Spit for slander, leading to deals that are kept secret. Burke made a strong public comment in which he said, "You won't find any evidence because that's not what happened." He told Dr. Phil that he thinks his sister's murder was done by a stranger who was crazy about beauty pageants. Some people still think that the Burke did it idea makes sense. Others think that he did it, while others say that he was too young to be so violent and choke his sister after hitting her. They set up the scene to keep him safe. What do you think? Type your ideas in the box below. One of the main problems with the JonBenét Ramsey mystery was that they spent too much time on the parents. Another problem was that the crime scene was tainted, which messed up the whole probe. When the police came, they only locked JonBenét's bedroom. This let his family, friends, and officers move around the house easily. People washed surfaces, touched evidence, and even moved JonBenét's body, all of which seriously damaged physical evidence. In fact, her father found her body in the basement and brought her upstairs instead of calling the police. During the probe, the police also didn't follow the rules very well. That's where they missed JonBenét. Her father found him hours after the 911 call in the basement. They didn't bring in crime scene dogs or quickly lock down the whole property. Also, the incident happened during Christmas when departments were short-staffed and confused. This made for a perfect storm, which former police head Mark Beckner acknowledged. He said that the case went in the wrong direction because of how it was handled. In quote, even worse, important things like the garrote, the ransom note, the rope and the flashlight haven't been tested again by modern forensics, and some of them may still not be tested or have been lost. The ransom note is one of the puzzles that the police have not been able to solve in the case. Patsy Ramsey found the famous 3-page ransom note on the stairs on Christmas morning. It wanted $118,000, 0 cents, which was exactly John Ramsey's bonus, which made people immediately think that the person who wrote it knew a lot about the case. The note was written on stationery from inside the house using Patsy's pen. It was unusually long, formal, and dramatic, with movie lines from Dirty Harry and Speed, threats of killing, and signatures that looked like SBTC. They were so confused by how strange it was that they wondered if it had been put there on purpose to throw off the investigation, or if someone was trying to get money from John Ramsey. Handwriting routes have been discussed for a long time. Some people connected it to Patsy. Others said someone pretending to be a thief wrote it. Jason Jensen, a private investigator in Utah, thought that SBTC might be using academic jargon, like that used by University of Colorado Boulder students, which pointed to a local attacker. Psychological profilers don't believe it, because they think it's just a fake kidnapping note made to trick police. Linguists point out that the strange phrase, advise you to be arrested, doesn't fit with real kidnappers. Aside from the ransom note, the cops looked into other hints at the crime scene. There was still some proof at the crime scene, even though it was dirty. JonBenét's father and brothers think that this information can be looked at again by the police and used to finally solve the mystery. Investigators found a scuffed open basement window with packing peanuts and leaves inside, as well as a bag under the window, which suggests that someone may have been able to get in. A high-tech boot print found near JonBenét's body didn't belong to anyone in his family. JonBenét was also found strangled by a homemade garrote made of nylon wire wrapped around the tip of an art brush from Patsy's. A similar rough binding was seen on her wrist. Also, there was a lot of DNA, which is unusual for a case that hasn't been solved after all these years. Male DNA that didn't match the Ramseys was found under her nails, in her underwear, on her garrote, in her long johns, and on her wrist cord. However, they still don't know who the DNA goes to. Besides that, there were other traces. On the door to the wine cellar, A palm print was found. Duct tape on her mouth came from somewhere else, and a latex glove was found in some trash nearby. Her hair had green Christmas string threads in it. While police try to figure out who killed JonBenét Ramsey, the media was busy following their every move and making fun of the family. The murder case of JonBenét Ramsey quickly went from being serious news to a trial on TV. Instead of focusing on facts that could be checked, most cable news and newspapers made the disaster seem more shocking to get more viewers. Notably, Geraldo Rivera's 1997 fake trial on the Geraldo Rivera show falsely found Patsy and John Ramsey guilty before they were actually found guilty by a judge. This mixed entertainment with assumed crime. Rivera later said sorry to everyone for the harm he caused. Tabloids made even worse accusations against the family that JonBenét was made to go to beauty pageants by Patsy and that John had done something wrong. But these claims were later proven to be false. Burke Ramsey, who was only 9 years old at the time, was even in the news. And his worried emotions were shown as smiles that meant he felt guilty. Critics and journalists like Michael Tracy have called the coverage a public execution and a media murder, saying that it was wrong that unproven rumors took precedence over the truth, stepping on the innocence of others. The constant attention on the Ramsey family skewed public view, making a tragedy into a show, and critics say this made it easier for injustice to happen. Even with all the problems, the Ramsey family has continued to grow and achieve success in other areas of their lives, while also trying to solve the puzzle of JonBenét's death. John Ramsey is still the most vocal supporter of solving his daughter's murder case, even though his wife, Patsy, who is JonBenét's mother, died in 2006. He is still pushing for more DNA tests and wants the government to look into his daughter's death again. He lives in Michigan and Utah and married his third wife, Jen Rousseau, in 2011. He still believes that modern investigative techniques and outside experts can help bring justice. Burke Ramsey went to Purdue University and got a degree in computer and information technology. He has stayed out of the public eye and now works as a software engineer in Michigan. He is married and lives a quiet life away from the public eye. He said no to the Netflix documentary series, but in 2016 he spoke out about Dr. Phil, protecting himself and backing the idea that someone broke in. Is JonBenét's half-brother from his first marriage. His name is John Andrew Ramsey. He has been a strong supporter of solving the case and was in the Netflix documentary series. He has also been critical of how the police have been treating the case and has called for a DNA-focused probe. Now, the whole family is focused on making sure that the cops do more DNA tests and find JonBenét's real killer. Everything seems to be coming together now. The only thing left is for the police to test the DNA again and give the Ramsey family some answers. Which do you think is the most likely way that JonBenét was killed? Type your answer in the box below. Enjoy your break, and we'll see you soon.